Hello, all of my holy saints. George here. It's time for Catholic Positive Energy. Nice to see you all today. Once again, I'm sorry I didn't show up here yesterday. I've just been so busy. For those of you who may not know this yet, and I've said this several times here before, I have two jobs and I'm going to graduate school, so I'm very, very busy. On the days that I don't work my main job, I, try to do what I can to run errands, and that pretty much takes up my whole day, especially on Mondays. So I apologize for that. This has actually been happening quite frequently. So I don't know. Maybe I should move the broadcast to Tuesdays from now on instead of Mondays. I think that would probably be better. So I'll let you guys know with sometime within the next week. Because it looks like that's where this should be. I think Tuesdays would be better, at least for me. Anyways, I was supposed to originally do a prayer broadcast today. I've just been so busy working on this project for school, and it's actually been stressing me out a little bit, but I'm also going to, talk about that in a positive way here. So we're not going to do a prayer broadcast today. I'm going to talk to you guys. I'm going to share some meaningful stories because that's what I love to do. Share my life experience and hopefully bring some positive energy into your lives so that you can learn from what I have already learned, and then hopefully you don't go through the same thing. So, anyways, I'll touch on that just for a little bit. See, I'm working on a very time-consuming project for school, and I've been having to do a lot of things. Basically, long story short, I have to define a bunch of theological words that may not be familiar to non-theologians. I have to change the definitions into my own words to make them more easy for non-theologians to understand. Boy, that's been racking my brain. But I've been doing it. I've been enjoying this. And obviously, it is challenges like this that change us into becoming smarter, more intelligent, more wiser people. There are a lot of people out there who probably feel like, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to get a higher education. I don't want to study. I don't want to do all this work. I give up. I'm throwing these papers. Okay, well, you could do that if you want. Hopefully you won't do every single one of those things. Hopefully you won't throw papers or be very rude. But don't give up on yourself. I'll admit, there are some tough things to this. There are, to what I'm going through. But I'm not going to give up, because this is what I'm truly passionate about. And now that I've reached this age in my life, I'm 34, I could not have done this when I was younger. I really wanted to do this when I was younger, but emotionally and spiritually, I was not there yet. I still had a lot of negative energy in my life that would not have allowed me to succeed in grad school. Now, let's make that transition here. So, the topic of this talk is healing people who have bad pasts. I'm still going through that healing process, but I'm doing a lot better now than I have in the past. There are a lot of people out there who, pretty much everybody might say this, even those who may have grown up in wealthy families. There are a lot of people watching me right now who probably have had bad pasts. Maybe you didn't have the best parents in the world. Maybe people in your life treated you very badly when you were a kid, and it's had a very negative effect on you to this day. See, I have a friend here. I have two friends here. Hello, Francis Garza, and hello, Anita Sheridan. Nice to see you here on the Facebook page. I also have a YouTube channel if you'd like to see that too. Nice to promote that. Anyways, as far as people who have had bad pasts, like myself, and I won't get into myself as much right now. I've talked about this in earlier videos. If you go to Catholic Positive Energy number 1 and 2, I've talked a great deal about myself. A lot of people who have had bad pasts or certain traumatic incidents that have happened in their lives, they don't get over those very easily. They tend to take it with them. They tend to keep it inside of them for many, many years and never let it go. I have another friend here. Hello, Robert S. Ward. I also included your middle initial. Nice to see all of you here. I also have a YouTube channel. Please check that out. Let me name some fictional characters who many of you may know who have had some very bad pasts, who have been characters in movies and television series. Lately, I've been watching that movie, What About Bob? I'm sure many of you have heard that. For those of you watching me on the Facebook page, please feel free to comment on things I'm saying. You see, Bill Murray plays a guy named Bob Wiley who has a lot of problems. And his therapist goes on vacation, and then he tracks him down and always wants to be around him. You know, but his therapist doesn't want him around because he's on vacation, and he wants him to leave him alone until he returns from his vacation, and it just irritates him very badly, the therapist. But in reality, from watching that movie, What About Bob? Now, like I say, Bob has a lot of problems because he'd been through a terrible divorce, and he developed obsessive-compulsive disorder, and he has trouble leaving his apartment and touching things because he's afraid of germs and all kinds of other things. He had a problem because he went through a very bad divorce, and it hurt him, and he took it with him. He didn't let it go. Now, it's not easy to just let something go. You can't. There are certain things I've been through in my life that I think I'm still not completely over, but here's the difference. And I'll talk to you based on my life experience. Now, I don't have a PhD in philosophy. I'm not the most wisest man on the planet, but I do have wisdom and I can help. Because I'm going through this too, just like many of you. And I have 4 people watching me on the Facebook page. I've never had this many viewers watching me when I went live. Hello, Peggy Lee Werner Doan. I hope I didn't mispronounce your name. I have a YouTube channel as well. Sorry if I keep saying that. It's just many people who are following me here don't know about the YouTube channel, so I want to tell everybody about it. Anyways, there are people who don't get over things very quickly. But one of my points is, in watching that movie, What About Bob, the truth is, the problems that Bob was having, it was all up in here. He let a lot of things bother him, but whenever he talked to his therapist, and his therapist didn't even really give him intense levels of therapeutic treatment. I have another viewer. Hello, David. I hope I'm not mispronouncing your last name. I'm sorry if I do. David Royer, or I hope that's how it's said. Check out the YouTube channel. After watching that movie, What About Bob, what really just spoke to me was, to tell you the truth, Bob just wanted friends. That's what his problem was. He was lonely. And his problems that he had, he just needed friends. He became very good friends with his therapist's family and tried to be friends with his therapist while he was on vacation, but his therapist didn't want to be his friend. But what made him feel completely better was that he had friends. We all need friends. Have you ever heard this term? I've heard this in a philosophy class. No man is an island. I don't want the ladies to feel offended. You could say no woman or no person is an island. You know, we don't want to be isolated. Even during this past year, the way the world has changed, people, you know, want to talk to other people, even if it's through Zoom meetings, FaceTime, or Skype, instant messaging. People don't want to be all alone. And obviously, for those of you who are married, you don't want to be apart from your spouse. You don't want to be apart from your husbands and wives, or any of those who you really cherish in your lives. You don't want to be alone. I actually know somebody who just got out of a marriage, and they're very unhappy. But I know within time they'll be all right. Here's another character that I want to point out. I think I might have mentioned this in a previous video. Everybody here familiar with the detective show Monk? Anybody who's watching me on the Facebook page could answer. I love that show Monk. When it was on and I was a little younger, I wasn't sure what to think of it because I love detective shows, but this detective had a lot of problems. He was unlike any other detective I'd ever seen before on TV. But now that I'm older, I understand the story. See, Adrian Monk had OCD, just like the character I was talking about in the What About Bob. He lost his wife due to a car bomb. His wife was murdered. And he just had a psychological breakdown. He developed OCD. He didn't leave his apartment for 3.5 years. He was crushed. And that's understandable. You see, if anybody goes through some very, very bad experience that was out of their control, a marriage ended, a loved one was lost, and it wasn't that person's fault. It's very difficult to just get over it. A lot of people use those 3 words as just something to say, get over it. Okay, well, that may be easy for you to say because it's not happening to you, but it's not easy for that person. They're in a bad place, and it's hard to get out of that place. Sometimes it takes years to get out of that place. I know this myself. I've never been married before, but I mean, I am in a serious relationship, and I am very happy. Hopefully one day I will be married. And, if that were to just suddenly end in my life, I wouldn't be happy. I wouldn't. So I understand what everyone else is going through. If something terrible happens to us and it was out of our control, and our lives change forever in a way that we did not expect and didn't want, yeah, it's going to be very hard to get over it. But here are some helpful words that I have. You can't go around it. When you have a problem, when you have some serious trauma that occurred in your life, you can't go around it. You got to go through it. Time heals all wounds, and I truly believe that. Time does heal all wounds. You just need time. Sometimes it might take a few years. Sometimes it might just take a few days, depending on what happened. But to constantly talk about it, to constantly focus your mind on it, to focus your time and energy on these negative experiences that change the course of your lives, do you think that's going to make you happy? To constantly think about these things? I wanted to be silent for a few moments just to try to get you to think. No, the answer is no. It's not going to make you happy to constantly focus on all these bad memories, even though these things really stick out there for you. The best things to focus on, and I touched on this just a few moments ago, we obviously need to have friends. We need to have people in our lives who care about us, who are willing to spend time talking to us and listening to us unconditionally. Those will make us feel better. They will help us move on. We can't do it all on our own. To tell you the truth, I've met some very strong-minded people in my life. I have. And if they went through any of these traumatic experiences, I know that they couldn't do it on their own. They couldn't do it completely on their own without talking to friends, without talking to loved ones about how difficult their lives are. I know that they couldn't do it on their own. And that's not saying anything against them at all. I couldn't do it on my own. If I suffered a trauma at this point in my life, I know that I couldn't just move on all on my own without talking to a friend. How would you handle it? If you would handle it differently, please let me know. So, helping you heal. Here's another thing. Like I say, healing from a trauma requires time. It requires patience. Here's some other things. This is a Catholic positive energy channel. So it also requires prayer. It requires a lot of prayer. If you've been through a terrible trauma, you need to pray. And I don't just mean for like 5 minutes. I mean deep, deep, serious prayer. Pray for like maybe 30 minutes, 40 minutes, or even longer than that. But it needs to be serious. You need to be focusing completely on God and focus on meditation. Don't think about anything else. Don't think about how noisy it is outside with the traffic or the busy world. You need to focus highly on prayer. Then you need to focus on moving on, ultimately. That's ultimately where you need to get to. Focus on moving on. But there are steps you need to take. Confucius said, the journey of 1,000 miles starts with one step. Something like that. If I didn't get that completely right, please don't criticize me because I didn't say it exactly right. But I mean, that's pretty much what the quote is. I don't like being criticized. But yeah, I'm willing to laugh about it. So, you're on a new journey. A journey of moving on. And it starts with one step. It does. Don't not leave your house for a long time. Continue to live your life. But you need to realize, okay, it's time to move on. And if I have to start with one step, even if it means that I have to take 10,000 or 10 trillion steps, I have to start with that one step. So start with that one step and move on any way you can. Then, I'm sure we have a lot of sports fans here. For anyone who's watching me live on the Facebook page, let me know what kind of sports you like to watch. I'm a big-time wrestling fan. Here's another thing. I just watched WrestleMania this past weekend, and it was awesome. Now, for those of you who watch sports, whatever it may be, football, baseball, basketball, hockey, whatever, for those of you who are big fans of those things, regardless of what may be going on in your lives, I'm sure it makes you happy watching the big game. Getting together with your friends, maybe have some pizza, nachos, or whatever, watching the game, having a good time. That is always another effective tool that I feel can make the problems go away and help you move on because you're focusing on something that makes you happy. You're watching a big game with your friends, you're eating some good food. I don't think anybody will be focusing on their problems during something like that. That's another helpful tool I feel that can help you move on from something. And also, and here's something that I'm still learning now, as we get older, we change. We're always changing. We're not going to be the same people forever. You grow, you develop, you change, your personality changes, your habits change, your style changes. I mean, I know I'm not the same guy I was when I was 18. I've changed a lot. So maybe another broadcast I'll talk about that more in depth, but we're constantly changing. Whether we have traumatic experiences happen in our lives or we have more positive than negative, we are always changing. I'll just very briefly talk about this. There was a time when I didn't like reading books. I would not read books. I'd be like, nah, I don't want to read a book. That's boring. I wouldn't read something unless it had Nintendo in the title, and I think I've said that here before. I read books all the time now, mostly about Catholic theology, philosophy. I'm in grad school, so I have to. It's a big part of my life now. I read books. If I'm reading something that requires long, intensive reading, I don't want to read it on a phone or an iPad or a tablet because the shiny glare of the screen, well, it'll eventually get to me. I don't mind reading things on those devices if it's just for a few minutes, but if I'm going to be reading, let's say for a half hour or an hour, I want it to be a book, or I'll print up a physical piece of paper. And besides, sometimes it's hard for me to find my place if I was watching it on my phone. Oh, where did I leave off? Oh, I don't remember. So reading is something I didn't like doing when I was younger, but I've changed. I really have changed. We human beings are constantly evolving and changing. You're not going to be the same person you were when you were 18. You're not. And if you are, well, I'm impressed. I mean, maybe you should help me try to understand that. Contact me. I'd like to just understand that. I don't know what to say with regards to that. So, realize when it comes to bad experiences that have overwhelmed us, we need time. We need friends. We need to move on, even if it means one little step at a time. And we need to realize that we're always changing. We're always changing, regardless. Change can be a good thing. And even when something bad happens to us that changes the course of our lives, I'm not going to say, I want to be careful how I say this. I'm not going to say that something good can come out of it, and I'm not saying that it can't. Okay? So, yeah, please don't think George said something good can come out of having a bad problem. That's not what I'm saying, but I'm not saying that either, so neither or. What I am saying is, if something bad happens to us that changes the course of our lives, ultimately we need to move on. We do. No matter how fast or slow it takes us. Ultimately, we need to move on. And moving on can be a painful process, but remember, don't always rely too much on other people to make you happy. I'll tell you a short story right now. There was a time when I was younger, and I won't get into all the details. I'm going to be vague about this. I was very close friends with someone when I was younger, and eventually my friendship with this person ended. I didn't want it to end, but eventually it just ended. This person stopped talking to me, and I was devastated. I completely fell apart. I wasn't feeling happy at all. And it was very difficult for me to move on. I was 17 at the time. And I'm obviously moved on now. But when that happened, it was a very painful experience. And, I was crying. I was devastated. But one of the things that helped me move on was shortly after that happened, I got my first job, and I worked and worked and worked as much as I could. Every time, my employer called me, I came to work. And that's what got me through this. I kept busy, I started making a living, and I put all the rest of that stuff behind me. And I'm very grateful that I did. So keep busy also. That's another thing. I guess that's the fifth or the sixth thing. Sorry. But yeah, keep busy. I've talked with a lot of people before who have had some serious things happen in their lives, and they said that, they tried to just stay home and think about what had happened, and that never works for anybody. Even if you're retired and you don't have to work, sitting in your house, like this with your head down, thinking about what had happened, that's not going to help. You have to keep busy. Even if it means watering the plants, mowing the lawn, going outside for a nice, long, relaxing walk. I like to go walk in the park. fresh air is great. That helps me. But anyways, I hope what I've said here today is helping you. Here's another good friend of mine. Hi, Gus. It's nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you can watch this video from the very beginning. Anyways, I hope what I've said here has helped all of you. For anyone out there who may need healing in your lives after having a very bad traumatic experience. These are the things that have helped me and that I have learned throughout my life. So I hope you guys care. I certainly care. And yeah, I definitely hope that you have a wonderful week. I'll let you guys know, and based on the way things are going, I think I'm going to start broadcasting on Tuesdays instead of Mondays. So thank you for being here. I just had to wing it today. Maybe next time I'll do a prayer broadcast, but I just love to tell stories, helpful stories to all of you. So have a good week. God bless. And please remember, dignification is better than criticism.